Happy Friday! We are back with Circle of Sisters Table Talk, the spiritual podcast where we speak out and straight crowns in the process. I am Sacred Women Practitioner Sherry Unk, here with my gorgeous sister. Look,
Chantel Sierra Tisha Kim, your holistic self-care coach. We are here today and we are feeling magnificent as
yes.
we tap into our principle number 10. We are so close to the end. So we are so thankful to be able to share this with you. This was the principle that really hit home to me, as this was my ascension gateway in our Sacred Woman journey. It is all about seeing the vision, making it plain, and beginning to really become that which you see. So I am super excited as we dive into the lotus blossom, or coming out of the mud, sis.
Come on out of the mud. Come out of there.
This is definitely a journey. Coming out of the murky waters, the mud, we see the lotus be able to be so strong and so resilient to begin to implement the things she's learned through her life experience and her um, just growth process, taking the nutrients from those maybe not so good experiences and transmuting them into the love for herself and being able to come forth so beautifully.
Absolutely. In this particular principle, when we dive into this principle is about the alchemy of all of the principles. It's about putting all of the things that you've learned in the previous principles all together, applying them to life, and really living according to those principles, really um, putting them in aspects of your everyday life, so that you can clearly see the vision of what it will look like once you truly begin to blossom and bloom and come out of the mud. This is about being very clear on who you are and the direction you're going in. And so, with this particular principle, we don't focus on one principle. This is where we start to bring it all together, where we look
Yes.
at all of those principles that we've had a week spending time on, and we evaluate, and not only evaluate, but put into practice those new habits, those new things that we've learned about, so that we can truly begin to bloom or blossom or come into our own.
Yes. And that is also where we, definitely dig into the mud, right? We
Mhm.
dig into the mud and we begin to see what's in there that is nurturing us, that is helping us to really begin to shine and blossom and bloom. Because that is really what this work is all about. When we come out of the mud, we come out of the illusion of how we show up in life. We come out of the illusion of how the world wants us to be or expects us to show up. We come out of the illusion and into the truth of truly what that looks like for us. Really beginning to see clearly. This is definitely what this coming out of the mud is about. So we begin to take the things that have really um challenged us and grown us in ways that we didn't see in the process, right? We began to see, oh, this had to happen in order to get me to this place that I am now able to blossom. So we began to really begin to integrate life experiences with what we are aspiring to manifest in our right now reality.
Absolutely. Here is where we really dive into putting the holistic with the practical life experience. So, what does that look like as we get into this gateway. Well, what that looks like is finding the right times to do your observances or your practices that help to fortify and strengthen yourself. That looks like incorporating that in everyday tasks. So when I say that, what do I mean by that? Well, we've gone over a couple of the principles. So I just want to talk about the practical aspect of applying those principles to everyday life. We've spoken in regards to really connecting with yourself, really identifying with yourself. That's one of the foundational principles that we go into. How does that look? Turning your rising ritual or your evening ritual into an intentional time for yourself. So what that looks like, running yourself a bath in the evening and allowing yourself to cleanse and sit with yourself. Journaling. This is what we get into when we start to talk about the practical aspects of making these tools, these principles that you've learned, a part of everyday life. So you don't have to think about it. It's nothing that's forced. You're just going with the flow. And so in this particular principle, we really practice all of the things that we've gathered over the previous 9 weeks that we've liked to implement into our life, and we start to implement those. One of the things that I did that was a very easy implementation was really getting in my kitchen and understanding the herbs and things that I was working with. I have a family, I have to cook for them. And so when I'm cooking, being more intentional about the way that I cook. Okay, I noticed the house is really sick right now. So I'm gonna put a little bit more onions. I'm gonna put some garlic in there so that can help to drain, the sinuses. I'm gonna add a little turmeric and ginger to keep down inflammation. This is what being a um, queen is about, really knowing what the village needs, knowing what your community, your home, your family, what we need, and really applying that in everyday life. And so as we have gone throughout each and every principle, you've taken nuggets, you've pulled out nuggets. And so now is the time to practice and see what that looks like in everyday reality. Do you want to add something to that, sis?
Yes, yes. You talked about how, beginning to pour into your family. But this is at this space when we get to week 10, you really have become fortified in knowing who you are, knowing the medicine, knowing how you show up is basically to pour into others, right? Now that you have begun to pour into yourself and trust your knowing and trust your intuition, you begin to now give that to those around you. And this is where you begin to really become fortified, knowing who you are, knowing how the world is working, knowing how the things that have happened or the things that you've experienced in your life thus far have supported you to get to this place. You become a true oracle of what is to come, because now you've written the vision, you've made it plain, and now you begin to live it. And this is the power that we have as individuals, right? This is the power that we have as just coming into the authenticity of who we are. So now you have something to give. You're not looking for the world to give it to you. You're looking for the world to reflect it, because that's what's already within you. So that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff.
Absolutely. Now, here's the challenging part. A lot of times we find these things that we absolutely love, or these tools, these principles that we absolutely want to implement, but the process of implementing them becomes strenuous
Challenging.
or challenging. This is where we step in to help you understand what things to navigate. This is about having the sisterhood of support that lets you know if you truly desire to add some certain things to your life and you can't find the space for it, then there's probably some things that you need to let go of. This is where we start to let go of things within our schedule that are keeping us from being able to show up for ourselves. This can be the most challenging aspect of this entire journey because of the fact that we stand true to the obligations that we've signed ourselves up for. And a lot of times we think that when we start to release obligations or release responsibility in certain areas, that is not feeding into us anymore, or that we've ran our course and we're a little bit burnt out with. When we don't really honor that, we cannot implement those things that are that will put us in alignment with our goals, mission, and our sole purpose. And for that reason, a lot of times as women, we stay in very difficult situations. We stay in workplaces that are really stressing us out and are bringing a lot of toxic energy. We stay in environments, maybe that maybe your church home. I hate to say it, but sometimes we attach ourselves to churches, to nonprofits, to businesses that really pull on a lot of our energetic frequency, and we're not even really able to refill our cup. Now, those things that we desire to do are awesome, so we don't want to give them up, right? We're like, no, this is a part of me giving back. I can't give them up. However, we do have to realize when there's a shift happening with us that we need to focus on. And coming into this journey, you've realized that. So here's the point where we kind of hold you to the carpet and we hold you to the fire. And we're like, sis, you said you needed this time for you. You've seen and you've mapped out within each and every principle what are some things that could help you if you were able to implement that in your life. Here we are. It's time. It's showtime. It's go time. It's
It's
time for you to
now
start
time.
implementing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's time for you to implement your vision, and you're giving excuses as to why you can't remove certain things out off your plate. When if it was for anyone else in the world, you remove it without a hesitation. But for some reason, when it's moving things around in order to align yourself, it becomes a challenge. And so this is the fun part of applying all these things, but it can also be challenging with understanding, ooh, some stuff got to go.
Yes, but that is really the gift, right? That is the gift because now you see it. You see it for what it is. You see that, okay, I may need to restructure the way that I show up if I truly want to experience that which is on the other side. And, as we begin to work on ourselves and see clearly those things that we wish, the things that we hope for, the things that we desire to experience, we have to be that intrinsic part that is willing to go beyond our comforts. My nephew had posted this week, yesterday, I believe, about, the pain, right? The pain of change, the pain of going into something you may not know. You've never been here before, but you see it from the perspective of the glitz, the glamour, the completeness, the wholeness, the oneness, the bliss, the joy. But you're in a space now where you have to move into that, and it's not comfortable because you've never really been in that space before. So we have a choice to continue the cycle of pain and destruction, or we can step out of that into what we also see on the other side of it as the joy, the bliss, and all of the good. So he was equating it to anger. And I said, what if the opposite was love, right? Can you see this pain moving you into love instead of moving you into anger? And this is where that work begins within you, because you have to be open to it. And sometimes it means taking the mud of what we've experienced and say, yeah, it did what it could do to this point, but do I want to continue that? And if not, where do I go? And we're encouraging you today to move to love, move in the direction of love of yourself first, and understanding that when we love ourselves, it also opens it up for us to love others wherever they are or wherever you meet them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So within coming out of the mud, right? When we visually think about a lotus flower, is a flower that grows deep within the mud, and as it's growing, as it is being nourished and pulling out the nourishment from the mucky, muddy water that that's covering it, it tends to grow straight up and out. And when it comes out, it doesn't have a blemish of mud on it. And when I think about that visual image of everything that I'm going through, when I get to the other side, there will be no evidence of what I went through. You won't be able to see all of the pain, all of the stress, all of the struggle that I went through to get here. You're only going to be able to see this beautiful flower that I've become. And the same thing is true in regards to our journey. You know, no one will truly know what all you've went through and overcome in order to be on the other side, but you will. You will be able to understand how much you've overcome. And there is so much power in overcoming. I was telling a friend, she was having a difficult time, and I was like, "You're gonna get through this." I was like, "Everything that that you've gone through up until now, you've gotten through it. Every single thing, and so you'll get through this too." And that's what we have to, tell ourselves as we're going through each principle, as we're uncovering more about ourselves, as we're shaking
Peeling
off
back
the
the
mud,
layers.
peeling back the
Yes.
layers, growing, stretching. Sometimes many of y'all do yoga. And when we're doing yoga, you get into a part where you stretch and you like, "Ooh, oh, wait a minute." But if you stay there long enough, you get
It,
to release
yes.
that tension. And then you get up, you like, "Oh, that was a good stretch. That was a good
Yes.
stretch." And so this is the part where we like, "Come on, girl, stretch yourself, pull yourself, and lean into it." It might hurt for a little bit. It may hurt for a little bit. But once you finish, you're gonna be like, "Oh, that felt good. I
Once
feel
it pops,
loose
you be
now."
like, oh, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, and just imagine how that supports you in the next stretch, right? It's
exactly.
like, oh, it hurts so good. Come on, baby, let it hurt so good. Sometimes love don't feel like it should. It's gotta hurt so good. But this is a hurt that's not given to you by someone else. It's your own hurt, right? It's the hurt that you stretch beyond what we see and what we think is our only reality. So, like I said before, this was the gateway that I ascended in. And I picked this gateway not only because it said that I am a woman of vision, it said that, the vision for me was seeing myself come through each one of these principles, right? It's like it pulled back a layer that wasn't there before. It pulled back another layer that I hadn't seen before. And then when I got to this principle, I was like, wow, I do see it. I see the world for what it is. I see the world for what it offers. I see how all of these life experiences have brought me to this space. And then I began to see and hear from the ancestors that you have a choice. Do you want to be the controlled, or do you want to be the controller? And that is where the woman of vision begins to blossom, in that space of not only controlling, but being the controller. So now you don't really have to control the way things happen. You just control the flow of the energy as things begin to happen. So that is really beautiful when you can come into that knowing within yourself that I know, because I've tapped into my clairs, I've tapped into divine source energy. I know that this is moving me toward where I need to be. And I don't have to have a reaction to what I see on the physical. I can allow it to just present me me what I want. It's kind of like the waves. If you guys have been in a wave pool before, everybody gets in the wave pool. We hear the siren. The waves are getting ready to start. So now you brace yourself to experience the waves, and then you just go where it takes you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the way we have to engage our life and really begin to flow in the way it's going to take us. And that's where we set the vision, because it's a path. You can only go in a circle, right? It's not like these waves are going to take me off the beaten path. It's just going to make it easy for me to flow through the ups and the downs.
Absolutely. That was a beautiful analogy, sis. And so this is the point when we get our vision together, we understand the direction that we are aspiring to go. We start to move and align the aspects in which the aspects of our lives that need some adjusting so that we can be in alignment with our goal. When we start to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together, we start to really see visually the outcome. And I love that you mentioned that this was the part where you really got to really see yourself. This is where we really not only see ourselves, but we understand ourselves on a deeper level, right? This is a part where you are strengthening your own confidence, your own self-esteem, your own self-worth, your own
Knowing.
knowing. This is the part where we are really doubling down in that area and just saying, you know what? I've accomplished all of this. I've gone through each and every principle. I found out this about myself. This is the way that I'm going to move from here on out. This is how I'm going to show up from here on out. This is how I'm going to live from here on out. This is how I'm going to be from here on out. And we're not talking about according to what we say. These are things that you've discovered throughout the previous weeks that you need to shift within yourself. These are conversations that you've had with yourself for the previous weeks that you've told yourself, wait a minute, and you've identified patterns. You've identified some of the boundaries that you need to set. You've identified some of the things that may trigger you. And so there's some additional healing that you need to do in certain areas of trauma. You've identified this self. And so now that you are fully aware of who you are and what things you need to do in order to help heal yourself totally and completely, here's where let me strike that. Here's where you begin to hold yourself accountable. Here's where you begin to acknowledge what your inner knowing, your inner truth has told you throughout these weeks. Your inner truth, your inner knowing is telling you all of this stuff week by week by week by week by week. And here's the check-in portion, right? This is the point where you check in. You get all of the girls together, the ego, the shadow,
Your
your,
higher self,
your higher self, your lower
all
self. You
that
get all the
mind,
girls
body, and
together.
soul, and bring it into coherence.
Yes.
Where your heart and your mind and your womb are all lining up to, okay, I am the queen of my
Yes.
experiences. And I can take all of this mud, all of this gunk, all of these murky waters, because you did mention that the lotus comes not only out of the mud, she comes through turbulent waters.
Yes.
So she's in the mud, in the water. So you have the waves coming, you have the muck and the dirtiness, the heaviness, and you still keep coming. It's like you keep on coming up higher and higher and higher until you reach the air energy, because it goes back to the elements of the earth, the air, the water, the fire, the earth, and you become it in your own reality. And you begin to pull the things you need from the mud. And it's like, oh, this is the place of balancing my dark and my light, my ego and my shadow, and begin to utilize the ego because it's necessary to praise you for where you are and where you're going, and begin to really begin a new union with who you are in your lowest self and in your highest self. And it's like, okay, all of this was necessary, all of it. I don't judge it as right or wrong. I just see it as necessary, right? Necessary to getting me to what I do envision for myself and the boundaries I must set up for myself so that I'm not stagnant or stuck or in the mud and not feeling like I'm able to produce the fruit that I desire or the fruit that I deserve. And it's like, beginning to tap into those things that hinder us and keep us under the water or keep us in that lower vibration, that we can really hone in on it and take it and drink it and take all the nutrients so we can begin to sprout. And then it's like, whoo, a breath of fresh air.
Ashe. Ashe. You said as you were mentioning air, I started to get a vision of a butterfly, and butterflies are one of my animal totems. So I get a lot of symbolism from them whenever I see them. I'm really paying attention to what's going on around me. But when I used to study butterflies, there was a part of the butterfly process that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and I want to share that with you, with all of us, because it goes hand in hand with this particular principle and what's happening here. So we all know that a butterfly starts out as a caterpillar, right? It's a caterpillar. It goes around and eats as much as it can, because the next phase of life for the caterpillar is to go into a chrysalis, is to basically go into a cocoon and allow itself to break down every aspect of the butterfly. So really a death is happening at that point, because the tissue of the caterpillar is being broken down and transmuted, recreated into a butterfly. So many of us know about that part. We know that they eat, then they string themselves and make the cocoon, then they sit in the cocoon for a while, and then we believe they come out of the cocoon. There's a part right before the butterfly comes out of the cocoon where the butterfly has completely opened the cocoon and they're sitting there. And during this part, they're allowing the air to dry their wings, because they've went through this process. They've theoretically come out of the womb. So they're still wet, they're still fresh. And so they're sitting there allowing the air to really dry their wings so that they can prepare for flight. Because if you know, butterfly can't fly with wet wings. So they sit
Right.
there. And this is the point where we sit here and we allow our wings to dry so that we can fly. This is the point where we sit in our lives and we've arranged the things that we've needed to arrange. We've straightened the things that we need to straighten. We've aligned what we needed to align. And as that's happening, we're drying our wings. We're preparing to be strong enough to take flight, to be able to
Yes.
allow the energy to flow, to allow ourselves to flow in divine direction with the Most High. Once we've aligned our spirit and we surrender to the flow of life, we are much more able to navigate the direction of our path. But when we're resistant and we don't allow ourselves to be completely ready, we don't fortify ourselves so that we're strong enough to make the journey, we're not able to do so. And so I love, when you spoke of air, it just instantly made me think about the butterfly, because within this particular principle, this is where we are really sitting there and fortifying everything around us, everything within us, so that we can take flight and take off and just go for everything we know. But there's a period where we got to stand still and allow the wings to dry. We got to
Ashe.
allow the air to hit us so that we can be fully ready to take flight, and to really go with the flow.
Yes, and that is definitely a journey. And that chrysalis stage, right? The chrysalis stage is the most important, because that's when you begin to really see what it is you are creating. We come forth as so many different types of butterflies, right? What part of this journey of becoming, are you ready to take flight? What is your presentation? What does it look like? What color are your wings, right? What destination are you going to fly in? Are you going to the north? Are you going to the south, the east, the west? What is really there for you as you begin to take flight? And this journey of embracing the queen within is all about creating the master plan for your life, not only in the physical, but in the spiritual, in the emotional, and being able to really integrate and anchor in on that freedom found in knowing who you are. So this is becoming the queen on her throne with vision and empowerment is so much a process of death and rebirth, or as the empress in the tarot cards, where you're holding the whole world in your womb space and you get to push it out through the pain, through the experiences, through the successes, through the insight from your ancestors, through the divine inspiration, and begin to see it right before your very eyes. And that is it's a part of expanding, it's a part of growing, it's a part of really knowing the areas that you need to grow in. It's a part of knowing how you can give back, right? But also being able to like peel back those layers that have kept you in this place of safety as well, where the safety has also been your prison. So it's like moving beyond that prison into the prism of all that is.
Oh, from the prison to the prism. You better go. From the prison to the prism. That sounds like a book.
Come on now. Come on. That is the vision, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, we've been talking about the principles from day to day. We've been going over each principle from embracing the queen within. All of these principles interlock, interconnect with one another. It's like a stair step into enlightenment or into ascension. We basically take you from really the root of checking in with self in order to look into each and every aspect of our every single day life. Within this process, within these principles, we identify certain truths about ourselves that we might not have been aware of. Maybe we've been unconscious of certain things and certain aspects of ourselves. Maybe we've known it, but just weren't at a space or a place to be able to own the aspects of our truth that we really need to confront in order for us to live authentic lives. And so within this principle is where we really put all of those things into practice. We really start to hold ourselves accountable to living the life authentically, that the way that we see it, the way we envision our life. This is a time of divine reflection. This is a time of strengthening our inner knowing and our inner understanding of ourselves and those around us, and really fortifying our life and our lifestyle so that we can lead the life that we desire. And we are not being held captive in our own bodies or in our own homes because we are holding true to truths that we don't align with, are holding true to things that no longer, go ahead.
Or things that no longer serve us, but also truths that are not resonating to the truth of who we are. Because so many people in the world have their own truth, right? We think about the people who are conditioned to show up in the world the way the world says show up. Back to, are you the controller of your reality, or are you being controlled by what you perceive to be your reality? And we really have to become fortified within ourselves, understanding that the pleasure can truly bring the pain can truly bring forth pleasure in
Absolutely.
our life when we begin to detach from the norm of society, for one, and the norm of what other people think. Who cares? Who cares? If it's not aligning to the truth of who you are and building and growing and fortifying the essence of truth that you're being given, and you have to be able to confidently stand in that space and allow your wings to expand or your petals to blossom. No one can tell you differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No one can tell you differently. Oh my goodness. Um, going through these principles each and every single time that I go through the principles, I learn a lot more about myself. Starting this work when I did was completely pivotal because so much was changing around us. The world was changing as we saw over the course of the last 4 to 5 years. The world is a totally different place in 2024 than it was in 2019.
Okay.
And there are more changes that are happening. And with these constant changes happening as fast as and as rapid there are, you have to have your own underlying truth. You have to have your own underlined um, spiritual foundation, not religious foundation, because as we saw during COVID, they closed the religious houses down, so you couldn't even, convene with your religious affiliates. But having your own spiritual, right, your own spirit, your own souls. Um, Foundation is something that you can always build upon, and something that can never be taken from you, no matter what your situation or circumstance is. It's something that is not a tangible material thing that someone can remove or take from you. And so with that, you're able to strengthen yourself and fortify yourself in a way that's untainted, that's untouched, that is untampered with. We want this strength for each and every one of our sisters, our women, even our men. We want this for the family, which is why we're starting with the women. This is a starting point for us. We want to see the entire family heal, especially the Black family. And in order to do that, in order for us to do that as women, we have to heal ourselves. We have to take the time to check in with ourselves. And so within this 12-week program, we are teaching you how to check in with yourself. And this particular principle is really nailing down, the importance of really self-care, really
Yes.
self-care.
Yes, yes. And I want to shout out my nephew, Amarion Dennis. He is tapping in on the line, and he said, I referenced him at the start of this video, and he done chimed in. So give thanks, Amarion, my nephew. He said, if you have nothing to stand for, you'll fall for anything. The foundation is always and begins and starts with you. So that is truth. That is truth,
Come
Amarion.
through, nephew.
Come through, nephew, because really, if you don't have anything that you have to stand for, and it starts with you, our families, our environment is all about wanting to control us, right? First and foremost, wanting us to abide by and function in a capacity that is very limited to what someone else wants. It's beginning to overshadow the truth of authenticity and truly divine soul sovereignty. Soul sovereignty outweighs all of it, right? Because we are the ambassadors of change, and we begin to have to navigate our experience in the world as most people see it as normal, and also in the world of spirit where we see that things have to change, and find how we can begin to show up in that middle, in that bridge of the two. And it's not easy, and many are called, few are chosen, and even fewer choose. So, those of us who are choosing to navigate this experience with clear vision, it's a challenge, but it's necessary. It's painful, but it's necessary. It devours and envelops and devours who we thought we were. And we began to rise into this higher level of knowing of God energy, God source insight, and knowing of how we must move forward. That may not, it goes against the grain. It's that iron sharpening iron. And it's that, are you the one that's strong enough to stand in the midst of the sharpening and really begin to transmute that in the direction it needs to go? So we are the women and men who lighten the darkness, because there's so much darkness in the world that we have to stand as the pillars of light, in spite of our own struggles, in spite of our own coming out of the mud. We have to be resolute to say, you know what? I'm here for it. You know, y'all might have this whole way of thinking this is the way the world should function, but I see the other side of it, and this is really messed up. This ain't in alignment with my truth. And y'all can have that. But over here, I'm going to continue to pursue this other 5D reality. Some of y'all stuck in the 3D reality. That's all I'm going to say. And we are here to help you begin to, because we do go to and fro. We go into the 3D, but then we have access to a 5D. That 5D reality is really what's changing even this 3D reality that most of us experience. So, embracing the king within, embracing the queen within. Give thanks for all of you who have tapped in. And I hope this insight and this information will help you come out of the mud of your situation. Because it's true that you are the one. You are the medicine you seek. You are the Neo in the Matrix. You are that one that can make a difference if only you can follow that vision and begin to integrate and transmute those experiences that you're having.
Sis, you just dropped a whole word at the end of that, and we leaving them on red. Look, on red. What they say, we leaving them on red, because you just talked about going from 3D to 5D. I think that's another one of our topics we're gonna have to go into. We're gonna have to go deeper, because there is just not enough time to go into that. But but I love it, sis. Now we got a few people on the line, so I want y'all to tap in and tell us y'all coming out of the mud. From wherever you are, comment out of the mud, coming out of the mud, so we know who's coming out of the mud. Or if you have that clear vision, you want to get that clear vision, type clear vision so we can see who's checking in with us. But while we got a couple of y'all on, sis, share that card of the day. Share the little word of the day.
Oh, okay. So, of course, you guys know that I really tap into spirits and confirming what I feel, what I hear, what I see, what I think I know with oracle cards. And with that, the card that I pulled for today was this card, number 33. And it says root of air. Okay. We did speak on how the root of air begins to take us out of the mud, right? Take us out of the things, and we have to allow our wings, or as the butterfly, we have to allow the wings to begin to dry. So this might be a little bit too much information for some, but it may be something, food for the soul, as we talked about before, for others. And it may be just a truth being resonated back to you today. So we are excited to see what the root of air is all about. It says explore. So as you know, I've been pulling from the Ancestors, The Secret of the Ancestors Oracle deck by Abiola Abrams. Number 33 says, here we go. The declaration is, I am willing and open to learn and grow. I am willing
willing
and
and
open
open to
to
learn
learn and grow.
and grow.
So, in that space, the ancestral medicine says the root of air is the plant spirit of the vegetable okra, which
Oh,
also is known as okra
okay.
for the Akan of Ghana. Okra is an umbusum, a deity aligned with the soul. As I mentioned, our soul
Oh,
sovereignty come through. And Kyra also means soul. The energy of the okra plant spirit is slippery. This is a yummy dish and perfect for spiritual cleansing and slipping away from undesirable situations. But this slipperiness is still not a desired trait for humans. So beginning to slip between those dimensions, right? It's
mhm.
not always comfortable. And I was talking to a friend of mine earlier this week as I was navigating this experience, how people find themselves in between realms, right? It's in between this 3D reality and this 5D, and understanding how you maneuver between it. Because in the 3D reality, they're going to say you crazy. They're going to say you need medication. They're
Yeah.
going to say we going to numb you to that 5D existence because over there, we can't control you, right? Because your reality is truly your reality, and your reality is truly what changes the world. So it's a slippery slope. But being able to come back to fortify yourself in the truth, in knowing that what I see and what I think is what's becoming, in spite of what everybody else is saying, that's where we have to maintain our soul sovereignty, right? Because we have to begin to navigate the two worlds. And it's not easy if you're not supported, if you don't have people who understand, if you don't have the sisterhood or
The tool.
brotherhood that really know, because we're right there with you. We know that it is a slippery slope. So we can explore that other side. But in that, we have to stay grounded. So I want to give some insight in that space of staying grounded. I
Yes.
know most of you know that I am that sacred woman, medicine woman
Yeah.
who goes within and often finds myself way out there in left field. So I have to ground myself into this reality. So being in this, those deep breaths, using the breath to ground you into your reality, right? The deep breaths, the four breaths in, hold for 4, release for 4, and do this box breathing. That's one way to ground you back into this reality, right? Another breathing technique is the 4-7-8. So you breathe in for 4, in through your nose, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 8, for 7, and then when you get to the bottom of out, you hold that for 8. And then you breathe in through your nose again for 4. That will help you begin to ground into this energy that we find ourselves in 3D, right? So then we can implement the energy and the insights and the wisdom and the information that is given to us from this 5D reality and ground it back into our bodies, into our minds, into our hearts on this 3D, as we'll go into that on another topic. Anyway, Anyway, but staying with the breath is one way to get grounded. Also, going out in nature, taking your shoes off, taking your socks off, standing in grass, standing in dirt, standing in the earth, right? And just breathing there. Sitting in the dirt, lying in the dirt, hugging a tree. Some people think that's funny, but all of that really helps to help you disperse the energy that you're receiving and also ground you into the reality of who you are and begin to filtrate those insights, those revelations, those experience that you've had when you've tapped into the higher dimensions, the God energy, source energy, because some of us have been really chosen for that. And really, it can come with a lot of opposition. So as you begin to go into this experience of being nothing, no thing, being no thing, but being all things at the same time. This is what it means to come out of the mud. I'll read some more of The Root of the Air real quick. It says, you are feeling ready for adventure. Where will your curiosity lead you? The ancestors reflect that part of you that is hungry for knowledge and truth. If she is a reflection of you, you are driven, relentless, and on the move with a notebook full of crazy schemes and plans. You need people around you who believe in you and who will ground you in the process. Right now, you are the center of attention. Traditionally, this has been a somewhat scary place to be. You may even have a stirring of new sexual awakenings. Okay, we're going to take that into the sexual awakening arena. Okay, so wherever that leads you, follow it. Okay, but in the essence of the Empress, as we talked about from the tarot, you are birthing. You are birthing your creation. You are birthing whatever it is that you embody, that you hold within you. You are birthing it into your current experience, into your current relationships, into your current expectations of how you want to live your life. So really begin to understand the pleasure of that sexual energy to create. And there's a thing called sex transmutation, right? Sex transmutation. That is another way to ground yourself in this reality and birth into this reality the things that you desire. So check that out, look into that, and really go into your mud, go into those painful places, go into those things that you're like, dang, I wouldn't have chosen this, and find out what within that has helped you to get to where you are today. And that is part of embracing the queen within. That is part of embracing the king within. And we want to invite you to join us. We are down to 2 days.
So that means there's still time to sign up. There is still time. It is not too late if you have caught this podcast on any one of the principles that we've talked about. If one or more of these principles are sticking to you like glue and you like, dang, I really need more help with that. I really need to dive deeper into that. Or I just need a circle of sisters who I could talk to openly about the things that I'm going through so that I can get some clarity or some direction or some insight. If you're looking to connect with a group of women who are all on the same vibration, same frequency of spiritual awakening, of self-help, of growth and empowerment, you're supposed to be in the circle with us, okay? This is the Circle of Sisters Table Talk podcast. We speak out and straighten crowns in the process. So let us straighten yours. Come join us, okay?
Yes. I want to sound off in this atmosphere of today and the energy that we are in. We are calling you in, sister.
Yes.
If you are tapping in, if you have ever tapped in, please join us in the circle. This is your time. This is not just happenstance, right?
Yes.
It is a Sunday afternoon. You could be doing anything, but something has drawn you to this podcast today. We are so happy that you decided to tap in. We are so happy that you are intrigued by what we're talking about. But this is your divine reflection. We are on the other side of where you find yourself, whether on the side of expansion and growth or on the side of stagnation and what do I do next. We are here for you. We are there, and we see you, we love you, and we invite you to come into the circle. Get your other soul sisters, get your other nieces, nephews, or well, the nephews, we ain't going through the Queen Within, but nephews, we will have something for you. So tap in, because as we as women heal, we are going to heal the nations. We are
Yes.
healing nations. We are that 1%. We are the light in the darkness. And if you are being pulled into the darkness and continue to find yourself there, this is the space for you, because the darkness is where you shine brightest. So tap into you, sis. Take up space and join us on Embracing the Queen Within, because this is your time. Until next time.
Peace.
We'll see you tomorrow at 2. Peace
All
and
right.
love.
Love and light.